Hello everyone, it's Unit 29, B1. We are finishing the B1 course and we have an interesting lesson today. Let's start right away with the phonetics and English reading. I will read the first column, the phonetics column, very slowly, exaggerated, and then you read after me. Then we will do the English, a more fluent reading from the English. Let's start with the phonetics, okay? Marconi discovered how to transmit radio waves. How to transmit radio waves. In 1894. In 1894. He moved to England. He moved to England to continue his research. To continue his research. He lived and worked abroad. He lived and worked abroad for many years. For many years. Did you enjoy the film last night? Did you enjoy the film last night? How long did it last? How long did it last? My uncle's a physicist. My uncle's a physicist. My aunt's a biologist. My aunt's a biologist. I studied political science. I studied political science. I graduated 2 years ago. I graduated 2 years ago. Is it true they're going to freeze? Is it true they're going to freeze? The price of petrol. The price of petrol. I hope so. I hope so. But I don't think so. But I don't think so. Let's move on. Let's move on to our next point for discussion. To our next point for discussion. Would it be all right? Would it be all right if I took some time off next week? If I took some time off next week, I'll have to get my passport renewed. I have to get my passport renewed. I suppose so. I suppose so. If I didn't know him better. If I didn't know him better, I'd say he was lying. I'd say he was lying. I don't know him well enough. I don't know him well enough to be able to judge. To be able to judge. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets done unless I do it. Unless I do it. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. You're wrong, you know. You're wrong, you know. I'm sorry to contradict you. I'm sorry to contradict you. But there's obviously been a mistake. But there's obviously been a mistake. That's enough. That's enough. Okay, let's stop here for just a second, and I wanted to remind you that below there are all of the groups. You can look up the words in your favorite translator and Google Translate if you don't know the meaning. Sorry. And just to remind you also that you can subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can also click the like. That will help my algorithm. Let's go back to the go back to the group, and let's finish the second part of this. Perhaps it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. If only there were some way. If only there were some way of avoiding a confrontation. Of avoiding a confrontation. I wish you wouldn't keep interrupting. You wouldn't keep interrupting. I wish the bus would come. I wish the bus would come. Our deadline is the day after tomorrow, right? Is the day after tomorrow, right? I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. Well, it won't be my fault. Well, it won't be my fault. if we're not ready. If we're not ready, we do a much better job. We do a much better job if we had more time. If we had more time. What exactly do you mean by that? What exactly do you mean by that? I told them the plan wouldn't work. I told them the plan wouldn't work. But nobody would listen. But nobody would listen. Lack of funds. Lack of funds. Lack of human resources. Lack of human resources. I wish you'd stop being so negative. I wish you'd stop being so negative. Did you have a good holiday? Did you have a good holiday? Where did you go? Where did you go? We went to Spain. We went to Spain. We had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time. What was the weather like? What was the weather like? It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I have to go now. I have to go now. I have to meet Maureen. I have to meet Maureen. At 10:15. At 10:15. Did you have a good time at the party? Did you have a good time at the party? Did you meet any interesting people? Did you meet any interesting people? I teach, I taught. I teach, I taught. I buy, I bought. I buy, I bought. I missed the bus. I missed the bus. And I had to walk. And I had to walk. Okay, we've finished the first part, the second part of the second group. So we have finished the phonetics and English reading. Remember, you can copy and paste if you're not sure of the meaning of the words. Now we will look at the grammar. Sorry. This page. I'm sorry, that was on the wrong page. Okay, first we start with the using where in an adjective clause. So, the example, the building is very old. He lives there in that building. Okay, you see, I'm substituting everything in bold there in that building. So A, the building where he lives is very old. B, the building in which he lives is very old. Okay, so if where is not used, the preposition must be included, as in B, right? The building in which he lives is very old. Now, let's look at the possibilities with the preposition. The building which he lives in is very old. The building that he lives in is very old. The building he lives in is very old. These are all possible. These are using where and which and that to modify a place. Okay, be very careful about the preposition. Read these again so that you can memorize the idea, at least the sound of the idea of the preposition. Using when, I'll never forget the day I met you then, or on that day. So I will substitute this then on that day and put the ideas together. A, I'll never forget the day when I met you. B, I'll never forget the day on which I met you. C, I'll never forget the day that I met you. D, I'll never forget the day I met you. So when is used in an adjective clause to modify a noun of time, a year, a day, a time, a century. The use of a preposition in an adjective clause that modifies a noun of time is somewhat different from that in other adjective clauses. The preposition is used preceding which, as in B, I'll never forget the day on which I met you. Okay, because it is more linked to the day, on the day. I'll never forget. It's not linked to the verb, right? You live in a building, right? So you live in a building, that's linked to the verb. Instead here, on is more linked to the object, the day, on the day. Okay, in my opinion. Otherwise, the preposition is omitted, so you have those possibilities. Using expressions of quantity in adjective clauses. In my class, there are 20 students. Most of them are from the Far East. In my class, there are 20 students, most of whom are from Asia. Okay, in the first case, we have two sentences. In the second case, A, we have one sentence with a adjective clause, which may contain an expression of quantity with of, some of, many of. Sorry, I have a cold. Most of, none of, two of, half of, both of, neither of, each of, all of, several of, a few of, a little of, a number of. There are many options here. Let's look at another example. He gave several reasons, full stop. Only a few of them were valid, full stop. Two sentences. Instead, in B, we put them together. He gave several reasons, comma, only a few of which were valid. So he gave several reasons, only a few of which were valid. The expression of quantity precedes the pronoun of which. Only whom, which, and whose are used in this pattern. Adjective clauses that begin with a expression of quantity are more common. Okay, so the teachers discussed Jim. One of his problems was poor study habits. The teachers discussed Jim, one of whose public problems was poor study habits. Let's look at an overview of basic verb forms used in conditional sentences. The situation is true or in the present. The if clause is the simple present. The result clause is the simple present, or will plus the simple form. Let's look at examples. If I have enough time, I watch TV every morning. If I have enough time, I will watch TV later on tonight. So these sentences, these situations are true in the present and in the future. The if clause is the first clause, if I have enough time, or if I have enough time. Those are both in the simple present. The result clause, if it's in the present, I watch TV every morning. This is like a zero clause, a zero conditional. Instead, if I say I will watch TV later on, this is the first conditional. The biggest problem is to use will only one time in this sentence, not in the if clause. If I will have enough time, we don't say. We say if I have enough time. Excuse me. If the situation is untrue in the present or in the future, which is quite the opposite of the first conditional, we use the simple past in the if clause, and we use would and the simple form in the result clause. If I had enough time, I would watch TV now or later on. So I have the simple past in the if clause, if I had enough time, and I'm using would with the simple form in the result clause. I would watch TV now or later on. You see, this situation is not true. It's considered not true because I do not have enough time. Now or later on. So I cannot say if I have enough time, because then it's misleading. It's like if I have enough time for the first conditional, because that is true. And in fact, we use the simple present when you have a fact, when something is true. Instead, if it's not true, we borrow the past to show that this is not true. If I had enough time means I do not have enough time. The situation is untrue in the past. Okay, the past perfect is used in the if clause. The result clause has would plus have plus past participle. So if I had had enough time, I would have watched TV yesterday. Okay, the past perfect, if I had had enough time, reflects the idea that this is not true. If I say, if I had enough time yesterday, well, that would be the second conditional, and I would understand that you're talking about something in the present. But if you're talking about the past, you must use the past perfect. If I had had enough time, I would have watched TV yesterday. Okay, there are some exercises on page 6. You can do those if you want. Let's look at some more examples. If I don't eat breakfast, I always get hungry during class. Okay, here we have the simple present, which expresses a habitual activity or a situation. I always get hungry. If I don't eat breakfast, I always get hungry. B, instead, water freezes or will freeze if the temperature reaches 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees centigrade, Celsius. You can use either the simple present or the simple future to express an established, predictable fact or a general truth, as in B. C, if I don't eat breakfast tomorrow morning, I will get hungry during class. Okay, the future is used to express a particular activity or situation in the future, as in C. This is a particular situation because tomorrow morning during class. D, instead, if it rains, we should stay home tomorrow. If it rains, I might decide to stay home. If it rains, we can't go. If it rains, we're going to stay home. Okay, in D, the modals, the phrasal verbs, should, might, can, be going to, can be used in the result clause because they do represent also the future, or the present, for that matter. You can also use an imperative. E, if anyone calls, please take a message. And finally, should. If anyone should call, please take a message. This is quite formal, indicates a little more uncertainty than the use of the simple present, but it's basically the same as the example E, and F. So if anyone calls, please take a message. If anyone should call, please take a message. Untrue, contrary to the fact, in the present or the future. Okay, we have, 1 second, I skipped ahead. A, if I taught this class, I wouldn't give tests. B, if he were here now, he would help us. C, if I were you, I would accept their invitation. In A, if I taught this class, I wouldn't give tests. The truth is, I didn't teach the class. Sorry, I don't teach the class. This is a normal situation in the present. B, if he were here right now, he would help us. In truth, he is not here right now. C, if I were you, I would accept their invitation. In this sentence, in the truth, I am not you. Were is used for both singular and plural objects. Was with I, he, she, it is sometimes used in informal speech. If I was you, I'd accept their invitation. So you can use was or were in that case. Compare. D, if I had enough money, I would buy a car. E, if I had enough money, I could buy a car. In D, the speaker wants a car, but he doesn't have enough money. Would expresses the desired or predictable results. If I had enough money, I would buy the car. This is my first choice. E, if I had enough money, I could buy a car. This means that I am giving you one possible result. Could means would be able to. Could also expresses the possible options. I could buy a car, I could buy a motorcycle, I could buy something else, a bicycle. Adverb clauses of condition using unless. Unless, if not. Okay, A, I'll go swimming tomorrow unless it's cold. Okay, unless it's cold means if it isn't cold. If it isn't cold, I will go swimming. So you have the idea unless that is expressed in the idea like if with the negative. I'll go swimming tomorrow if it isn't cold. Okay, this is the same meaning. Using only if. The picnic will be cancelled only if it rains. Only if expresses the idea that there is only one condition that will cause a particular result. The picnic will be cancelled only if it rains. Let's look at some others. If it's windy, we'll go on a picnic. If it's cold, we'll go on the picnic. If it's damp and foggy, we'll go on the picnic. If it's unbearably hot, we'll go on the picnic. But if it rains, we will cancel. So it's the only possible condition. Only if it rains will the picnic be cancelled. When only if begins a sentence, the subject and the verb are inverted. Only if it rains, right? Instead of saying only if it rains, will the picnic be cancelled? That's the inversion here. Will the picnic. Only if it rains, the picnic will be cancelled is not really a good way of saying that. Only when the teacher dismisses us can we stand and leave the room. Only after the phone rang did I realize that I had fallen asleep. Only in my hometown do I feel at ease. These are subordinating conjunctions, prepositional phrases. They're fronted by only at the beginning of the sentence. They require subject-verb inversion. So only is one of these cases. This is quite complicated. It's not really that important, okay? So if you have time, listen to this again. Repeat the phrases. That's how you will block these ideas in your head. And thank you for enjoying this stream. Bye-bye.